Thanks so much for joining me on the Slice of Healthcare podcast. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited that we were able to connect. Fellow Massachusetts company. It's always great to connect with a local company. Surprisingly, the podcast being headquartered in Massachusetts, I think you're one of like two or three guests out of our almost 100 guests so far that are actually from in the Massachusetts area. So this is cool. I would like to just kind of dive right into it. If you could tell the audience a little bit about your background, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I'm a physician, and that's how I got into healthcare. Is I actually trained in and then did my residency in internal medicine and pediatrics. And then, I learned that I was really most interested in changing the system almost from the outside, and that there was so much work to do inside technology. And that got me interested in business, the business of medicine. I learned the business of medicine through a 6-year stint at McKinsey and Company. And that's where I kind of learned how payers and providers and pharmaceutical companies interrelate, and kind of got the overall grand picture about the system and its issues. And then I got very interested in working with technology companies, and I kind of brought back that interest. And from that point on, I've been the CEO of a series of healthcare IT companies. I'm also an active board member at a couple of companies, but the common theme, no doubt, is improving the overall healthcare system. And lately, there's been a little bit of theme of improving the caregiver. So the prior company to this one was an e-learning and assessment company that worked with nurses and physicians all over the country, and was really about upgrading their ability to make the right understanding and judgment in different situations. And that has then played into Laudio, which is a HR workforce focused company, which is all about improving management in healthcare. And the idea being very simple, that if you're able to upgrade the managers and improve the management of the frontline employees in healthcare, then the whole system can improve. So it's amazingly simple, but it's actually kind of complex to do.
Interesting. So you've always really liked being in the healthcare space. Do you feel each new venture that you're able to take learnings from the previous venture and use them in your current venture to maybe either make less mistakes or be able to have more progress at a faster pace?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for whatever reason, the last few companies that I've been involved with have sold software to health systems. And health systems are a really unique beast in terms of how they operate, how they run. It's not like a typical company. And very long sales cycles, and certain skills are required to really support them and meet them where they are and help them improve. And I think that's one example, Jared, of something that, the more you do it, the more companies you see and start in the space, and more you understand how to bring something that will be truly helpful, and also to get it to distribute and sell. Still haven't gotten the sales cycle below 6 months or so. So it's a longer term sale to a health system, but I've learned over the years how to work it from over 12 months down to 6 months as an example, where the budgets are in health systems, how they think about spending money, where to create value, how to best get introductions, and that whole network effect, it kind of catches on after a while.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's that's been the biggest kind of piece of frustration I've heard from non-healthcare entrepreneurs that want to get into healthcare. They have no idea about the sales cycles when trying to sell directly to the health systems. They can have a really good platform, right? Really good product. But many actually end up taking a look elsewhere than selling directly to these health systems to start off, because they can't sometimes as a small startup, you can't afford to go directly after these large health systems. Number one, because you might not be able to deliver. And two, you can't wait, like you said, 6 months as a startup. It can be very difficult unless you've been there, done that before.
Yeah, totally. I actually still need to do it, but at one point I promised myself that I would write a blog post that said, never start a company selling to health systems with less than $10 million. And the reason is that you actually need that type of a war chest to not only sustain the sales cycles, which is what you just mentioned, but also one of the interesting things about health systems is they're not buying point solutions anymore. There's been, at least with the top, say, 100 systems, they're really trying to consolidate vendors and put in real platforms and not deal with a bunch of paper cut startups that, just do one thing and just one tiny thing. They're much more willing to buy from vendors that offer more of a platform that they can bolt on additional product or functionality. And that puts more pressure on the development cycle for a startup. I mean, you've got to think at the platform level from day one if you're going to get in there. So it's both sales cycle and product, actually. And it's getting harder and harder. It's not getting easier.
Yeah, good luck trying to put together an MVP and get a pilot with a health system. Like you're saying, they want to see that platform, and it needs to be a much more complete product for them to even want to test it, want to use it, right? No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think it has to some degree dampened some of the entrepreneurial ecosystem selling to health systems. Health plans, which is another major part of the ecosystem, seem to be more willing to experiment with MVPs and point solution type products. I think they're also starting to consolidate a little bit, but they're not, as focused on it. But with health systems, it's hard. And I think that, maybe as some of the app layers open up in these health systems, it'll become easier. Um, I'm waiting to see the 10 biggest companies that can drive 100% of their business and sustainability on something like that Epic App Orchard. That has not really happened yet. It might be happening. There's a lot of IP issues and whether Epic sort of then builds that product once the app is taking off. And it doesn't really feel like a Salesforce-like ecosystem on which companies that are the apps can really be sustainable and amazing. But that would be the next level of change that would have to happen to change this dynamic.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's really good feedback. Actually, I mean, you've said a lot of great things on the podcast, but that's actually one of the, I would say, even the most interesting pieces. Might have to use that as your tagline video. 30 seconds. I think that'll get a lot of attention. But okay, well, where can people learn more about Laudio?
So, our website, www.laudio.com, is definitely the best place to go to learn about Laudio. There you can actually see the product, see how it works, watch a video of the product, but then importantly also see all of the customer validation around the product. The best thing about what we're doing is that we're providing a service that these health systems and the managers in health systems find super valuable. And it's actually non-obvious to someone who doesn't know Laudio how valuable these tools actually are. And we provide all of that at laudio.com.
Okay. I'll throw that in the show notes so everyone will be able to quickly access it. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up about Laudio or about the state of healthcare in general?
Sure. I think that this idea, we're going through a very special time right now, right? So we're in the middle of a pandemic. Healthcare workers are taking it on the chin. And with each of the waves, it gets worse for them. Back in the spring, healthcare workers are and were heroes, and they got a lot of credit for that. People banging the pots and pans out of their windows and celebrating them, rightfully so. But now with this latest surge, there's not as much celebration. They're still putting their lives on the line to take care of folks who've caught COVID. And we're in a world of healthcare worker burnout. I mean, it's really striking to talk to the health systems about how big an issue that has become. And so, what are the solutions to that? And I think Laudio is a solution to that, because one of the main things we do is we attach the manager to their frontline staff in a way that prevents and reduces burnout. And that just might be what we need to get through this crisis. We've got proof of it working very well in the health systems where we're installed. So we've measured pre and post the install of Laudio and seen engagement massively increase in frontline employees and retention massively increase in frontline employees. And we're just now getting at quality of care and patient experience and all the other elements that are really important. And so I think, at this time more than any other, we're bringing a solution I think is really important, not just for health systems, but for anyone that would go to a health system like you and me. So it's an exciting time, and we're excited to be playing a role in supporting the health system get to the other side of this.
Perfect. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. We're certainly in an interesting time. And I'll tell you, I look forward to following, your career continuously and the progress of Laudio moving forward as well. And I will throw, like I said, everything in the show notes, and hopefully, maybe we can have you on again sometime to kind of hear where you're at and what you're working on. But thank you so much again for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jared. Good luck to you as well.
Thanks.